This is an Audio Wool original.
It is Frightday. I'm your host, Byron, and we're broadcasting live from our former lumber mill in the woods of Montana. Brothers, blood, and the blues. When you build something beautiful in a world that wants to break you, where every note is rebellion and every step beyond the doorframe could be your last, sometimes the monsters you fight aren't the kind wearing sheets. Sometimes they've got fangs. And we'll talk about that tonight as we review Ryan Coogler's Sinners. I'm joined tonight to do that by Kelly.
Hi, everybody.
And Sam can't make it because he's a racist.
Poor Sam. You can't
He's
even
not
say
a
that about him. Well, I mean,
Wait, what do you mean?
he's not like an intentional racist.
Well,
I feel
okay.
like, you know.
That's fair to say, but it was a joke, a slanderous
I know.
joke.
Yes, he's not in the intentional
of course
sense.
not.
No, he's a pretty good guy.
Took you a while to watch this one, Kelly.
I knew.
Excited to do it.
Yeah, my sister, who doesn't even like horror movies at all, saw it before me.
The buzz was building.
It was building, and also I think it was quite a few people I know who are not horror fans, like normies. A lot of normies have seen this one.
Very exciting. Speaking of transcending, I don't know, Contact in the Desert.
Oh, yeah.
Right around the corner, like a little more than 2
Are you
weeks.
talking about raising your vibrational level?
I'm going to get very woo that weekend.
Okay, do you
And
know
by
that
woo,
part of
means
it-
I'm going to be in the pool.
Well, you're going to be the only one, according to Henry.
I can't wait.
One of the things we get to do is go out to this rock that apparently has special powers.
Oh, I don't want to be at the Rock.
You don't want to do the rock?
Should
I want to
I
do
mean,
the rock.
well, I
think we
guess
should all go do the rock.
I have to teach Sam how to run a camera.
You do. That'll
And
be fun.
I hold a clipboard, of course, because I am the producer.
You have to hold. I have a clipboard.
I've got clipboards.
I travel with
You act
clipboards
like
now.
I don't have clipboards around me.
I travel with them. You have one in your car? I've got one in my car
I don't
at
have
all
one
times.
in the car. But May 29th through June 2nd, we're in the desert. We're flying to Palm Springs.
I did not believe you and Sam when you told me how hot it was going to be, and then I looked up the average
I didn't
temperatures.
tell you how hot it was going to be. How hot it's going to
You
be?
both were talking about how hot it was going to be, weren't you?
I guess I never had that conversation.
Oh, I thought you did. In my head, you did. Sorry. It's going to be hot as shit.
Like 105 or something, right? Like,
Okay. Do you understand that I cannot tolerate anything above like 78?
I don't think you are familiar with this kind of heat, though.
Oh, no, I am. I know
Are
there's
you?
a difference. Like, I am not good in dry heat. I'm not good in humid heat. I'm not good in heat. I have like an 8-degree temperature satisfaction
Wow.
range.
If you're good at heat, join us at Contact in the Desert.
It will be air conditioned, and
Yeah.
I'll just stay inside. And then I'll have like a poncho on that'll take me to the pool. And then if I'm in the water, I can handle
I'm
heat.
going to give them the promo code now.
Oh, promo code.
Fright 10 when you
Fright
check
10.
out. Yeah.
Go buy tickets and come.
Tickets, and we will
Fright
be
10.
Kelly will be at the Rock. I will be
I'm also going to try and find prime rib.
at an
That's my
Oasis.
favorite thing to do when
Yeah,
we travel.
every time we go on vacation,
I
you
want
get
prime
prime
rib.
rib and you put it on the company card.
Well, I want prime rib. I mean,
All right, well.
it's good.
I mean, you've been familiarizing yourself with the schedule. What are you most looking forward to?
Oh my gosh, so many
mean,
things.
I
The
imagine a
panels.
lot.
I mean, the individual talks are going to be really fun, but the panels where I get
Josh
to listen
Gates?
to. I mean, I don't really give a shit about him if I'm
Okay,
being honest,
all
but
right.
everybody else cares about him.
Naparino's going to be there.
Nap.
I'd love to see Nap.
We also get to see Ross Coulthart. He's going to give a presentation.
Who's that now?
Avi Loeb is going to call in for one. He's not going to be there in person, but that's pretty cool.
I mean, is that cool?
However, if they announce at the last minute that my really amazing new favorite Gary Nolan is going to come, I'll probably have a heart attack. He's the one that I would fangirl the most over, and I would be very intimidated around. But Whitley Strieber. I mean, think about it, Byron.
Legends.
That cover. Also, I was listening to an interview with him about his new book. I'm trying to get up to speed on his new book so I can ask those questions if we get a chance. Very, very excited. It's going to be overwhelming. I'm going to need to have lots of notes so that I can further digest when I get home.
The trip got shorter, too. I was looking at the dates we originally lined up. We're packing all this in. It's going to be nice. Well, I guess we're just doing less travel.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, we're there for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we come back on Monday.
Guess that's true.
It's a lot of days.
Can't wait. See you there. Once again, contactinthedesert.com. Fright10 is the promo code you would want to input if you want to spend some time with us.
Please. I will have a cocktail with you.
Don't be weird.
Or a non-alcoholic cocktail if you don't like drinking.
Like, just be normal.
I won't be, I'll be me.
No, I'm not
whatever
talking
that
to you.
is.
I'm talking to people.
Oh, people, you can be however weird you want. I don't give a shit.
I'm not interested in that. This is a live show. Phone lines are officially open, by the way. And I'll push this button here that says, you can call now.
You can call now.
At youtube.com/Frightday. You can see that.
Allentown, if you're out there, I'd love a call.
Or live.frightday.com, yeah.
Please, Allentown.
Okay, well.
Hello, are you out there?
Speaking of Allentown, folks, thanks so much for the kind words about the Allentown episode.
Yes, thank you so much.
Especially this person.
I have no darkest secret. Well, I do, but I'm not going to tell them to you.
Dang it.
But what I am calling about is to say is thank you so much for Allentown the other night. I have so desperately needed to hear the fun and wonderful storytelling and high strangeness again that I have been missing. I'm an old dude who used to listen all the time to all the great stories, and High Strangeness lately has just become this clinical video whistleblower, blah, 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 boring, fact-driven. Last night, that was the best late-night radio I have plugged into in years. Like, I loved it. I love the energy. I love the story. Keep it up. Thank you very much for bringing joy back into the genre for me. Y'all take care now. Bye.
It's like pretty much the nicest thing anybody could say.
I mean, I was having a rough day when that came in.
And that really helped.
I may have wept in the car.
Yeah, no, I did too when you played it for me. And I think that's what we're hoping to do, right? Like, it is supposed to be fun, and I am having a crazy blast with Allentown. I've got the whole family in on the investigation.
I feel like that.
I know you question my parenting all the time, but that horse is out of the barn.
It seems inappropriate because like, I'm concerned about the social standing of your offspring.
You know what's funny is I texted one of the girls' friends' mothers the other day, expressing my concern about what my attendance at UFO conferences was going to do to my children's social lives.
Very valid question.
But, you know, I've managed to weasel my way into specific corners where it doesn't seem to be causing problems.
So far, I mean, like, this is only going to get worse. Like,
or maybe it gets better because maybe disclosure happens and then everybody's like, wow, Creature and Pukwudgie have the smartest mom in the world because she knew all of this stuff before we did.
Or the government kidnaps you and your family and
I mean, they'd leave the family alone.
Yeah, I don't think they would. You
don't think so?
It seems like they don't really care much about families these days. Just saying.
True. That's true.
Yeah, wonderful job also of the folks who took the time to spread the word about that. Like a little bit of buzz in some forums. Really appreciate you.
Yes, so much.
Keep it going. I mean,
because first of all, I really appreciate the vote of confidence from everybody. I also love the idea of hopefully hearing more. Like the more people that listen to it, we might get more data and more details that we can pick up on.
Some people did catch on some things that we didn't yet. We have received some tips, and I want them to keep on rolling in.
Please.
I guess I'll push this call now button one more time. I took it off.
Yeah, call now. Call now.
I'm pointing down at it.
Oh, I was gonna can I move my head so that I'm right in front of it?
Yeah. Questions, comments, threats. Call now 1-833-FRIGHT9 1-833-374-4489. On that note, yeah. I guess that's all the housekeeping, really.
Housekeeping. I'm terrible at housekeeping.
Really?
Yeah, it's filthy right now. It's really terrible.
I'm going to have you...
It's messy. I shouldn't say it's filthy. It's messy.
On that
it's
note,
clean.
Maybe you should take this stack... it's a stack of DVDs of the film Slackers.
That's the movie. Okay, wow.
And how about you put that away for me? Because it is time for staff picks.
They say so much, but they never tell you if it's any good.
Werewolf movie with P.T.'s mom in it.
The Howling, horror straight ahead.
Horror straight ahead.
I am going to be so brief because I feel like we have a lot to talk about tonight. For me, I left Sinners feeling something that was missing significantly in the genre, something that brought me to it initially, and that's the energy of a film called From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh,
The first
I see.
horror film that actually sunk in with me. I watched it at
It holds a special place for you. I do know that.
I feel like I brought it up in the first episode of this podcast, which, of course, if you are a Friday Society member, you have access to that episode, where I discuss a sleepover I had at my cousin's birthday, where they rented From Dusk Till Dawn, and it changed my life.
So crazy to think about.
I don't even know what age I was, but clearly too young to be watching Cheech let folks into the titty twister, you know.
Well,
I mean,
Yeah.
also the horrific violence, the kidnapping, but the Clooney of it all, right?
I mean, Clooney. We just watched a couple Oceans movies at our house.
Really?
Getting the
Still haven't seen
Clooney
any of them.
intros.
But I have one other movie.
Oh, wait, that isn't your pick?
Well, I'm doing two.
So much for doing it fast.
Well, I'm doing it fast. You think I'm not doing it fast? I want to talk a little about a little ensemble film, also directed. I think Robert Rodriguez did From Dusk Till Dawn as well, right? Am I crazy?
Maybe? I don't
think
know.
He did.
It sounds familiar, but it
Of course
also
he
sounds like
did.
the kind of thing I
Yeah,
would get
just-
wrong.
I wouldn't want to get that wrong. Also from Robert Rodriguez, The Faculty, which is a film that Coogler directly referenced
So
in discussion
interesting to me.
of Sinners, tonight's featured film.
That is very interesting to me.
Wonderful. One of the best ensemble casts of the era, 1999. Is that right? 98. Josh Hartnett, Elijah Wood, Clay Duvall, Jordana Brewster, Usher is there. It's just,
Jordana Brewster. I haven't heard mention of her
Yeah.
in a million
well,
years.
speaking of that, I saw a Josh Hartnett movie at Screen Unseen on Monday called Fight or Flight. Have you heard of this?
Oh, wait a second. Is that the one with Wahlberg, or is that a different one?
So that was Flight Risk.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's
Sorry.
that's
Okay.
fair. I think Josh is on his way back. I mean, clearly we saw Trap last
Okay,
year.
so not to be redundant, but I don't know if you know because you've never seen it. At the beginning of Ocean's 11,
Okay.
the idea is these are con artists and they're kind of like washed up because
Sure.
one of them went to jail. And Brad Pitt is now teaching poker to a bunch of like brat movie stars in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
One of those is Josh Hartnett.
Really? In an
Or
ocean.
maybe it's Joshua Jackson. I can't remember which one was sitting at that
Is
table.
it Pacey
It's one of
from
them.
Dawson's Creek, or is it Josh Hartnett from 30 Days of Night and 40 Days and 40 Nights, right?
Yeah, and the Trapped. Yeah, now I don't remember.
Either
Disregard.
way.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're totally fine. So
I don't like his hair.
you don't
It's
like
creepy hair.
you don't like the frosted blonde of the new Josh Hartnett?
I mean,
It's from the
weird.
producers of John Wick. Basically, he's a mercenary.
Wait, it's a John Wick? Whoa.
Produced by the
okay,
people,
because
yeah.
the vibe of John Wick movies I really enjoy.
Oh, then you'll love this. This, I left, and I don't know why I'm talking so much about this, but maybe I'll
Okay.
just get it all out now.
Okay.
It reminded me of Crank 2 High Voltage meets John Wick meets, I don't know, Air Force One, whatever. It takes place on a plane, so
Okay.
clearly limited space there. But
Okay.
basically, Josh Hartnett is... he's been like burn noticed basically, and he's been in I think it's China for a while, and he gets a call from this government organization and says that if he takes this flight and brings in this hacker called the Ghost who's on this plane, then they will reinstate his passport and like give him his life back.
Oh.
But he gets on the plane and finds out that the information about the Ghost being on the plane had leaked on the internet, and everyone on the plane is an assassin who is trying to claim a $10 million bounty of the Ghost. So his job is to keep the Ghost alive. Everyone else on the plane is
Trying to kill him.
trying to kill the Ghost, yeah.
Wow.
So I guess in that...
Wait, so sorry,
in
who
that
plays the
sense-
ghost?
Well, I can't tell you. It's
Oh,
kind of
okay,
the
because it's...
surprise,
Oh, it's
right?
like... Oh.
It's, in a way, it's kind of like the... What is it? The Orient Express, right?
Oh,
Like,
it's like an Agatha Christie.
kind of.
You know what's funny is
and
my
it doesn't
sister's
go on that long.
on a
of
Death
course.
on the Nile cruise right now.
Interesting. Yeah, I just thought it was like what they give you for people who don't know. AMC Screen Unseen It's like once every 2 weeks, they show a movie that isn't playing yet. And it's a mystery, and you sit down, and then the only information that you're provided is the rating and the runtime. So a lot of people on Reddit will try to decipher, like, ooh, based on this, what could this film be? Typically it's something that's coming out in the next 2 weeks. Sometimes it's something that's going to get like a more indie release. I was crossing my fingers hoping it was Friendship, starring Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd, but it wasn't that. It was Fight or Flight, which is a film that I probably would have never seen unless I went to something like this. So, not telling you to do this because I am an investor in AMC, and I'm not thrilled with the recent release of financial information. It's probably been one of the biggest.
Oh, AMC?
Yeah, it's not looking good.
Just bought a bunch of tickets on there today. Had no idea. Didn't even.
The shares are down to $2.70 each. So I guess if you want to get in now,
or maybe just not,
you could double down like I'm doing and just keep investing money in AMC. But go to Screen Unseen. I think it's really fun. Okay, that was not short.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Sorry, Kelly. How about you?
So my pick for tonight is another kind of strange horror movie that is set in the 1930s.
Oh.
It's called Nightmare Alley. It came out 4 years ago.
Okay. The Del Toro.
It was a Del Toro. It had a hell of a cast in it. I don't know how much you remember about this.
Ensembles, yeah.
Yeah, Toni Collette, Willem Dafoe, Richard Jenkins, Ruben Amara, Ron Perlman, Bradley Cooper. Pretty crazy.
Did we cover that? I feel like we at least saw it.
I mean, we went and saw it. Yeah. I
don't know if we did.
It's a very interesting movie, and it covers a lot of... it's a very psychological, horror-based movie. It is also based on an earlier novel that had to do with a lot of weird, interesting cultural issues of the time. Very different issues than those that are highlighted in the movie we're covering tonight, Sinners, but also kind of illuminated some things and gave way to me digging into some interesting historical topics that I previously didn't know about, which is kind of a theme with me. And I'm going to talk about that more in a little bit, but
yeah,
it was a very interesting movie. I thought it didn't necessarily do super well. I know it didn't make a ton of money, and I think critically it was kind of mixed. I really, really enjoyed it, and it's one that I am, hoping to revisit in the next few months because I haven't seen it since it came out, and it really came to mind when we were watching this movie.
Yeah, I remember it being long.
It is long. It's 2.5 hours long.
Okay.
It's a long one.
And the production was stopped halfway due to COVID situations. But I feel like maybe there was a tone shift in the middle that didn't quite
Well, I also think that the movies that were released shortly after things were trying to return to normal post-COVID, like there was a lot of struggle there for all sorts of reasons, and I don't know that it may not have gotten a fair shake. I'll update you what I think when I watch it again, but for now, I would say definitely give it a whirl if you haven't seen it before. It was on Max/HBO for a long time. I don't know if it's still on there, but give it a whirl. I mean, it's at least got Dafoe. It can't be that bad, right?
Dafoe's in a lot of things. So.
Yeah, he's in a pretty good thing.
I don't know.
Follow him. Can't go too wrong.
Well, that's staff picks, I guess. There.
Staff picks.
Appreciate you. I guess, now we got a lot to talk about.
We do.
And we should probably jump to it. Let's talk about Bloodshed in the Blues.
In the Blues.
As we review Sinners.
Sinners.
Hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Sinners. It's a 2025 American horror film written, co-produced, and directed by Ryan Coogler. Trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their Mississippi hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. If I can get 2 hours of people's time, I can affect them more than if I threw a trash can through a window. That's something that Coogler said.
Interesting.
About filmmaking.
Interesting.
Makes sense, though. You can change a lot with a film.
Well, Byron, we had an interesting conversation earlier today. I hope you can bear with me. If people don't want to hear about my introspective wanderings, skip forward like 3 or 4 minutes.
Well, let's introduce Coogler real quick, though.
Yeah.
We should
Yeah.
probably
No,
do
that's good. That's good. That's a great idea. Wait, don't skip yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's let him settle into it. He's my age. May 23rd, 1986.
So what have you done, dude?
I
know,
it's
right?
exhausting, huh?
Yeah.
Oakland, California. He attended St. Mary's College in California on a football scholarship.
He was actually really academic and athletic. Both took very seriously.
Well, yeah, but it was a creative writing class kind of changed everything for him. A professor suggested that he should pursue screenwriting, and that's what he did. He transferred to Sacramento State. Is that good?
I mean, St. Mary's is a private Catholic school. If he's on a football scholarship, then, he was probably getting a pretty good deal there.
Yeah.
Sacramento State, though, as an in-state student would be a pretty screaming deal. It's certainly a good college, but it's not the same, like, St. Mary's is going to be more of like your traditional college experience. Sac State is going to be a little bit more of a commuter school.
Okay, but he's going to get a better education in this specifically, maybe?
Maybe, I don't know.
Either way, he went on to earn his MFA at USC's School of Cinematic Arts.
Which it doesn't get better than that. I mean, the rejection rate for that program, it's much easier to get into Harvard than it is to get into that program.
Okay.
Like USC Cinematic Arts, yeah.
Huh.
I mean...
So I didn't know much about him. I know now that he had an award-winning short called Locks and Fig, which focused on marginalized communities and what they're calling hard truths. So I don't know exactly what those hard truths are. So if I'm wrong, sorry. But his feature-length debut, though, Fruitvale Station, came out in 2013. Do you know about this?
I have not seen it, but it's a true story of a victim
Oscar
of...
Grant is the name of this person. It's about his last day. He was a 22-year-old black man who was fatally shot by a police officer at a BART station. You ever been to San Francisco, Oakland area? You ever ride the BART?
Yep, I have.
Take it from the airport or into the city. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was January 1st, 2009 is when that happened at the Fruitvale Station in Oakland, California. And
Indeed.
There was a video that was captured on a cell phone that went viral and sparked protests and outrage and a re-examination of police and abuse and reform, I guess, yeah. And then he did Creed in 2015, which I think you and I, Kelly, both haven't seen this film and are kind of disrespectful about it because, the Rocky franchise to me was never anything like.
So I loved Rocky.
Really? Okay.
I loved Rocky,
the
but
one
my
I
husband
liked was the Russian one.
Okay, with Dolph.
Dolph getting his fucking face smashed in. Remember that?
That was real fucking yay Merca. But it.
Well, yeah, I was a kid. I have no idea.
And as a kid,
yeah.
of course, we loved those.
Yeah.
I loved all of the Rockies. My husband fucking hates all sports movies.
Okay.
He was talking shit about The Natural this weekend with my daughters, and I'm like, no, of course you don't. It's a Robert Redford baseball movie.
Okay.
I love sports movies, but I like very specific ones.
Yeah.
Like, I love Any Given Sunday. I fucking hate The Blind Side.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen either of
the
them.
The point being, I haven't seen any of the newer Rocky movies just because there's really nobody to watch them with because my husband's like, but there's a student that I've been working with who's remarkably smart and insightful and chats about a lot of different media that she consumes that is pretty similar to mine. Mm-hmm. And one day it came up in a meeting that she's like, you haven't seen Creed? And I'm like, really? Like, is it supposed to be that? And she was like, "Are you serious, Kelly?" And I was like, "Oh,
I don't
okay."
think we understand what it is.
Yeah, I think we're dum-dums.
I think that to me, it's attached to this almost like a novelty film from the 80s, like
Right.
this film that isn't supposed to be taken terribly serious. Mr. T was in it, like.
Well, he wasn't in the OG, but
Yeah,
yes.
but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't the OG, but
Right.
it certainly appears to be something completely different and
Yeah, and
a
it
huge blind spot and kind of an embarrassing one. If I'm honest. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually very much looking forward to going back and watching that because it seems to carry. Well, Coogler, from my limited experience thus far, presents some similar themes in very different contexts for, a pretty wide range of audiences. Not to oversimplify, but he took this horrific true story and turned it into a really incredible first feature-length production with Fruitvale Station, and then he made Creed, which was using the intellectual property of Rocky franchise, but from what I hear, really reinventing it and making it something all of its own.
Yeah.
And then Black Panther, which is a long-standing...
Came out 3 years after Creed. Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I think is a very difficult thing to execute because there is so much pressure surrounding it. Obviously, huge for anybody who enjoys Marvel fans and is, looking to see a character that maybe hasn't been as mainstream or popular with the larger culture, but obviously
the representation in Marvel films.
Yeah.
Like, I think they probably do things better than other subgenres. However, like there's still there's a huge
I mean, a lot of people didn't know necessarily about Black Panther in any significant way until those movies came out, right? If you think about kids growing up, kids always hear about, the Marvel characters that we already know. Everybody talks about Captain America.
White person my age, it's like Spider-Man because we're all like, whoa, Peter Parker,
Right, right. And Black Panther, you have to imagine, is this completely important experience for a lot of people that just doesn't get the same kind of voice. And so
neglected in a way.
The pressure behind that voice was huge. Yeah. And, I really enjoyed them, but they were very enjoyed by a pretty wide audience.
Of a film. Like Black Panther, and I'm really not a big Marvel guy.
Yeah.
I have a friend that really likes them, and I like to enjoy those experiences the same way that I went to every Twilight film with my friend Miranda.
Which is so funny to me.
There's something about sharing that kind of energy and excitement and experience, and I really enjoy it.
Which is interesting because that very much ties in to what I wanted to talk about, Byron.
Okay.
So
that's all I had to say about Coogler. I mean, it was all a fire after that, just the energy around him is massive, and he kind of keeps delivering in different ways, which is very exciting.
Well, and I think he's got enough ideas and hopefully now has a lot of momentum behind them because it's not to take anything away from Ryan Coogler, but I think there are a lot of artists out there who have incredible ideas. It's really hard to get your voice heard. And he has had the amazing combination of incredible talent and great luck, honestly, to get to this place where now I think he can continue to do what is important to him.
Yeah.
I heard a really interesting interview where somebody said, you'd put Black Panther 3 on hold to do this. And he kind of corrected them and said, I really didn't put anything on hold. Like, this was so important in my heart. It was what I had to make next. Like, it wasn't even really a choice.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's great that he's in a position where he's taking that risk, because whether he sees it as a risk or simply following what is most important to him, a lot of people in our culture would view it as a risk. And it's great to see something like that paying off and people paying attention. So, Byron, we talked earlier today because, like many movies we watch, I had...
How many times did my phone ring until I picked up, Kelly?
I know. It's okay. So just so you know, you aren't the only person that complains about that. And I really am trying to fix it. For folks who
don't know, Kelly has some setting on her phone, which I believe should be easy to turn off, where it ignores immediately.
It's a focus thing.
Yeah, turn it off.
I've tried.
No. So
I know.
You cannot call Kelly between the hours
you just have to double call.
of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m.
You just have to double call. You have to double call.
I don't want to double call.
I know.
I don't want to have to
Unfortunately,
double call
the way that this works out is my students have no problem double calling. They all panic call me.
Then what's the point then, Kelly?
Right.
if people have hacked your system.
So you're telling me I should just turn my phone off?
No, turn off focus mode. Just let me call you. You're my business partner.
I know. It's really bad. I'm not denying it. But the point is,
Okay,
thank you for answering the phone.
I did answer the first call.
Okay, appreciate that. That was really nice. I wouldn't be mad at you if you didn't answer the first call. I understand.
Honestly, I've earned like 3-month vacation from you.
I know. It's true. So I was talking about voicing with you, Byron, some anxiety I had around, wow, this was an amazing movie. This is really important to cover. And I really don't want to screw up covering it. And that moved into this, okay, why is that? Obviously the racial implications are front and center for me in this movie in terms of why I see it as so important. And Byron, posed some pretty good questions, pushed back with like, why does this have to be?
I didn't want to take away from that being like a massive part of because thematically that is what it is, and that's a huge element of all of Coogler's work. But I think that it would be a disservice to not acknowledge this as also an excellently executed genre film. Not that you weren't ever denying that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like he took a swing and entered a genre that was, I mean, he may be personally familiar with, but this is his first, horror film. Yeah. And even beyond the thematic elements, I wanted to make sure that we focused on the fact that this is masterful on its own.
Exactly. And I think when I come to these discussions, the lens that I look through for my experience with a movie, certainly there are ways that we can talk about and do talk about a lot of the different elements of a movie, but in terms of how I relate with it and how I experience it, I feel like it's something that I just take for granted that is clear and understood. But I really tried to think through that more today and okay, what is it that is happening when I watch movies and when those types of issues are the first things that pop up to my mind? So first and foremost, a dear friend of mine reminded me today that you really can't be wrong as long as you stick to your experience.
Well, that's
and
why
you
people
kind
are
of keep
tuning in. They're here
humility.
for you.
Well, of course, me, obviously.
Well, and me as well. But
keep humility.
And I'm here too.
Keeping humility within reach, I think, is very important because as long as I am clear, these are my interpretations of the film. These aren't the interpretations of the film. And then second, Byron did have a really good point. Like, Kelly, you're overthinking it. You don't have to go there, which after I pushed through my root instinct to argue with him.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a back and forth, but I think we did a good job of
it gave me a good question to sit and contemplate for a while this afternoon. And I thought, why do I feel so compelled to go to those issues immediately? And this is what I came up with, Byron. Okay, so...
Can I say one thing before you start that?
Yes, of course.
I just want to say that it's also kind of what our show has turned into. It's like we do analyze horror films from that perspective for the most part, which
well, and I think it's why I'm attracted to horror at its root, because it's always saying something almost, I would say always. It's always saying something bigger.
We covered Dude Bro Party Massacre too in the early days, and Zombievers as well. Yeah, there are films that are not doing that.
But even in the absence of something bigger, it's indicating something. You know what I mean?
I think that's true.
And so after all of the years of training and untraining I have done with my brain regarding all sorts of things, the core of my instincts and navigation of this world, when I'm at my best, I think is gathering info that brings me closer to solving the puzzle of empathy.
Okay.
Yeah. So understanding the experience of others and even doing a better job of understanding and communicating my own experience with anybody who wants to hear it. Mm-hmm. And that really is kind of at the core of everything I do. And for quite a few years, I used to kind of feel the value of my experience and the lens that I shared, the value of that rested entirely in that being the correct experience.
There's a different weight to it.
And the correct lens. Especially it being a better lens and a better experience than what anybody else's interpretation could be. I feel like I've finally settled into the idea that okay, my lens has value, but not more or less value than other ones. And in like taking energy away from that battle, I feel like I've been able to lean into the excitement and honestly, even the mystery that I feel when trying to strengthen the connection with the world around me. And that feels really, really important these days. And so it's
Wait,
kind of,
why do you say that?
well, yeah, I mean, because everything is fucking on fire.
Yeah.
But it was kind of an epiphany for me, like thinking back on my life. Okay, so I think about like when I was a little kid and I remember I loved logic puzzles. Like that was the first thing that I loved. And like collecting these data points and trying to figure out what the solution to this logic puzzle was. And then listening to Art Bell episodes with my dad and learning about all of these weird unknown things that you could explore.
Fake things, yeah.
Right, fake things. Even my favorite college course was literary theory and like how you could understand different works of literature through all of these different lenses.
Where'd that degree get you?
Well, I mean,
Just kidding. Right here.
writing
Yeah,
here, I guess.
yeah.
I am driven by solving mysteries. If you can just let me research and gather data and understand as much as I can, I'm just so freaking happy. And even though the carrot used to be like really chasing validation through all of that, I feel like, you know, I'm still tempted by that once in a while, but for the last handful of years, specific number of years, a little bit up for debate, but I've really tried to retrain myself to seek the goal of connection through empathy. And like, okay, if I can gather enough info, I'm never going to really understand what it's like to be a person of color in this country. But if I can put every amount of effort possible into like getting as far down that road as I can and really try to see the things that aren't obvious to me, that is the value and the joy that I get out of watching something. And when it's horror, it's through this really cool lens of what stirs up fears for different people and what is the resolution of those fears for different people and what do those fears represent for other people. And so, you know, all of this led to me calling a dear friend of mine who I've known for like 20 years, who helps me time and time again fill in the blanks of ignorance in my understanding of the shared experiences of people of color. And it should not be his job to help me evolve, though I am eternally...
That's because
he's a person of color.
There you
right.
go. Okay.
And I am eternally grateful that he is willing to help me in circumstances like this. But I just was like, hey, like, I really don't want to fuck this up, because to me, one of the messages of this movie is the like white lens taking over different pieces and different manifestations of Black art. And that's, you know, in some ways what we're doing in reviewing the movie. And I like expressed all of these fears to him, and he had this great conversation. He was like, he asked me this very pointed question. He's like, okay, well, what scene affected you the most in the movie? And I'll tell you that scene when we get a little bit further on with the story.
And I'll
but
try to think of that as well.
You know, it was really helpful to hear his words about, you need to talk about your experience, but part of what is happening here is this movie may not be made for you, but that doesn't mean that it's not being made so that there's something you can learn from it. And I think by that, it's as simple as, you know, not to minimize, but I look at like Disney World. Okay, the Tiana ride, which is where Splash Mountain used to be. It isn't necessarily made for my daughters, because my daughters get to see representations of themselves everywhere in like princess culture, right? But even though it's not made for them, there's still something pretty amazing that they can take from that. And to me, the biggest thing they can take is, again, this sense of empathy and like, okay, wow, like this is, you know, it is a transformative experience for them. And so for me, I am still on the road to learning a lot about this, because there are pieces of like
Well, I don't think
blues
you're
history.
never.
No.
Yeah. Like,
No.
it's the thing is, I'm never, like you said a few minutes ago, I'm never going to have
No,
all
totally
the
not.
knowledge of that experience.
But I also want to say, like, Byron, that is not how you necessarily view movies. And that's also totally awesome because not that you don't get
I was
into
gonna
that
say,
to a degree.
Like, I fully recognize all those elements. I'm just trying to balance
well,
this.
you're much more like you recognize a cinematographer's angles and like
Sure.
the lighting and the sound design and these things that I think are actually very artistic. And it's interesting because I don't know, this is oversimplifying, but I feel like my lens that I'm applying is totally humanistic and yours is really artistic.
More art focused.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to have both of those things in the room because I'm sure there's a combination of all sorts of things that our listeners view movies with.
Well, and I think that's like one of the coolest things, and I didn't listen to as many interviews as you did about Ryan Coogler in this film, but like the way that the oppression is represented in this film is the power is like not in this oppressive like the black people are being held down by
Right.
this. They are
Right.
but that's not the thing that's dominating them.
Correct.
And that's such a that's you don't see that. You
Yeah.
don't usually see a lot of people lean on that as the drama.
Right. And that isn't.
It really isn't directly the drama. Like,
No.
the real drama is like a true genre film, which like
and it's representing a lot of these things in so many different layers
ways.
of horror, which is really, really cool. And I think, again, it seems to me that Coogler is trying different genres on to tell these stories. And I think it's just amazing the way in which he's able to speak to people. Looking at the numbers of people that have gone to see this.
Oh my God.
Like,
yes. Well,
incredible. And I just am really excited that we get to talk about it, but I want to be, So thanks for being open to me having like the weird, like obsessed with digging into it.
you talking to me or them?
To you.
Well, them as well.
And
Appreciate you for
just
listening.
know that like, I think it's great that isn't what you want to do. I think that
I do want to do that. I just don't want it to be the whole conversation. Like, because I think that's almost disrespectful to the movie itself.
Well, and so I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think it's disrespectful to the movie at all.
Sure.
I think that that's just the way that I see, that's the way that I experience these movies. And I'm totally okay with that and with that not being like the exact same lens that you experience them
Fine.
with. Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Wonderful job. Okay. 1932. Do you remember it?
Yeah, it was a good year. It was
Yeah.
a pretty good year, you know.
We got identical twins, Smoke and Stack. And they returned from Chicago, where they were working for the mob. We'll get to it. I
Yep.
promise. We'll get to it.
Yep.
Do we even want to go point by point? I mean, we don't need to go point by point, really, but I don't know. What do we?
Well, so I think there's some things that are important to lay down again, like just for my silly lens.
Yeah.
Not saying that this is the only way to look at it, but
You don't need to count. Yeah.
we come into this story and it's the 1930s. So World War II is over. We're in the middle of the Depression.
And these twins went to war.
Right. And the impact of World War I think even from a historical perspective, is something that I am only starting to gain a clearer understanding of as I get old. So war is terrible, no matter what way you slice it. But World War I, by all accounts, was absolutely brutal in all of these completely unprecedented and never seen again ways.
It's the World War. Like,
But beyond being a world war, we had so little like a lot of our understanding of disease and death and the way that we treat things actually came out of field work in World War I.
Yeah.
Like the ways in which people died was more inhumane than I think what most of us imagine and what people experienced in the trenches.
I was going to say, we're talking trenches, so.
Oh, just horror.
Hand combat,
Right.
explosions.
You know, and it had different impacts on different cultures around the world. But in
Yeah.
many ways, you know, this led to the rise of Nazis. Like part of the reaction to World War I was so extreme that people went in that direction
because they were facing like dramatic economic
Oh, you mean like
instability.
inflation and like so, but I think before we even start addressing the racial pieces, these are two guys who have really been through hell, because all accounts of World War I are that that's what it was.
And even worse for black people.
Oh my God, can you imagine fighting for a country
That doesn't respect
that
you
still,
even
after the Civil War, you aren't treated as a real human within.
Oh.
And that comes into play with what was happening with Jim Crow South and with what was... So technically, people of color were free at this point, though poverty had them enslaved in a completely different way. In fact, there was an interview I heard that was making the argument it was actually at this point in some ways worse than slavery, because people would get arrested for, having a fine that they couldn't pay. And then they would end up in jail, and they would end up on these work crews.
And that's still happening. Not the work crew part,
right?
But
well,
it
is still in some way.
Over-policing of,
right.
And the incarceration.
So they would use these work crews as like unpaid labor.
Yeah.
But
a chain gang.
And I have to be careful about how I phrase this, but the interview was fascinating. It was like, okay, obviously slavery was terrible, but a slave owner felt like they had invested and they had something to lose if that enslaved person died. Whereas on these crews of
there's this resentment
prisoners,
kind of like,
they didn't care if they died because there was no investment. And so they're treated as even less human.
Wow.
It was horrible. And there's actually a scene in this movie that speaks to that specific experience.
Well, it's the Stack brothers and then their little cousin, Sammy, preacher boy.
And we see Sammy is still working, picking cotton as a sharecropper.
Taking care of his little brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews.
Yep. And his father is a preacher.
Yep.
And his father is drawing a very clear delineation for him that music is going to lead him down the path of sin, and he needs to stay away from it.
Yeah, you can only dance with the devil so many times before it follows you home.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the subtext of that was interesting. I didn't realize, I think I'd heard this at some point in my life.
He's not dancing with the devil. I mean,
well, but according to his dad, he
is. And that was something that I was trying to figure out. Like, what does that really mean?
Well, I think, it's different referencings and different manifestations of this, story, this urban legend.
Yeah.
Almost mythology, right, surrounding the birth of blues, and that this legendary blues musician, Robert Johnson, supposedly gained his skill by selling his soul to the devil.
Nice little deal, yeah.
Right. And so this connection between like blues being a very purely black expression of all sorts of incredible horrors and joys and pains, and also being connected to the devil and hell, and almost having this ability to rip holes in space-time, which, of course, my brain starts going to like, oh my God, what does this have to do with, right?
Sure, yeah.
But that was being alluded to, I think, though obviously Sammy, our protagonist, this preacher's kid, right?
He just wants to spend the weekend playing music, man.
Yeah, he's worked really hard. He's literally been in fields picking cotton, right? And wants to go do something fun. And at this point, they're supposed to be free humans in our country, right?
Yeah, so Smoke and Stack pick him up in this car.
Played by Michael B. and Michael B.
Michael B. and Michael B., which is a lovely, love Michael B. Truly, like, surprises me every performance. I think I really don't give him as much credit as he deserves. Really incredible stuff. And maybe I need to watch Creed, because is he in Creed? He's in Creed.
I see, and I would be like, Byron, we should do that for Wine Kelly, but you'll be like, no, Kelly, it's not a horror movie. Yeah, I know. I know. You're right. You're not wrong.
But there's one line that stood out, and you'll be able to quote it better than me because you watched this more recently than I did. Sammy's asking if things are as bad. Like, he's asking basically why his cousins came back from Chicago, because he heard that things were better in Chicago, and he said it's the same as here, just with taller buildings, something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
So I mean, it shows that like just because they were free doesn't mean that they truly are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
even in Chicago.
And though things looked different, there were so many ways in which people of color were being held down, and their freedom was still being restricted. And honestly, we can put that lens on a lot of things that go on today. I mean, redlining is an incredibly powerful device to keep wealth out of Black communities in many cases. And so the amount of power it takes to overcome that is pretty insane.
But speaking of power, these guys are they're doing something for themselves in their community. That's kind of the driving force of this, at least at the beginning, is they're opening up their little a juke joint.
Yes.
The whole movie opens with this purchasing of, is it a lumber mill? It used to be a lumber mill. I said that in the opening.
So.
I'm not sure.
I mean, I know that they're looking at like stains on the floor and saying,
they're purchasing it from this guy who,
big fat old white guy.
Yeah, who they know as a leader of a Ku Klux Klan, but he says there's no Klan. So.
Right. Well, and they actually, I don't think they knew him as a leader. So? They just spoke about the Klan in general to him, but then it came out later that he was in fact the leader.
Yeah, well, he's a piece of shit, bad guy. But they bought this.
But happy to take their money.
Yeah, well, and they bought this place with cash because clearly they were either doing well at doing crimes or doing crimes to folks who were doing crimes with them. They have a lot of cash.
Yep.
And they are gonna open up their own juke joint, and it turns into a kind of a fun, like really well developed road movie for the first third, and I love it. Like as we go, we kind of pick up this cast of characters, and we're moving towards the juke joint.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't think about it that way, but that's a great description.
It's a long movie.
It's so weird though; it didn't feel that long,
which is incredible
for me. But yeah,
well, I mean, I went to it at, I think my screening started at 9:45.
It's a late start time.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but it was opening night, and it was really delightful to leave that with kind of the energy of this film.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, yeah, they have this big truck of beer and other alcohol. One of the early scenes, though, is as they whip the canvas off at the top of it, there's a rattlesnake in the back of the truck. It's kind of this ominous sign that, evil is right around the corner. It's their warning, I guess, but we don't take it. We're gonna have a great time. We hear Sammy Preacher Boy perform in the car a little bit because they do split off. The truck with all the alcohol goes to town to have a sign made, and to is that the only goal? Food as well.
Yeah, I was going to say supplies too.
Yeah. It's a wonderful little road movie. You meet a whole
we get
handful
insight,
of characters, right?
We get insight into, because clearly, the dominant theme in here is the experience of people of color in the South at this time.
Too.
But there's also different communities that we're given insight to. There's discussion of the Choctaw natives in this area, and there's also a Chinese family that are asked to make a sign. They have a shop. It's a husband and a wife and a daughter. And I remember even feeling like when the daughter is at the front desk of the shop and hollers out for her father in the back, like the voice that came out of her, I was like, whoa, that's not what I expected. And like little moments like that for me throughout
They're
this
so
movie.
nuanced because of course.
They felt similar to moments that I had in like Get Out, where I'm like, oh, fuck.
You have these
like,
kind of pre-ingrained.
Right. I'm like, oh God, that was a weird reaction. But again, I don't know that this was Coogler's intent at all, but it really provided opportunities for me to like hold a mirror up and be like, oh.
I mean,
think about that for a minute, Kelly.
Well, like one of the clear moments that is highlighted in this is the Chinese family owns two shops, one on each side of the road, and one is for white people, one's for black people.
Yep.
But even when they go across to the white side, like we don't get that story, which is really cool because that's not the story that's being told. That's not the important part.
But we get a little glimpse of it.
Yeah.
And then there's
really
a glimpse that comes back in my favorite scene in the movie. But
are we almost there?
We're close.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we have a whole cast of characters that we're scooping up. We got someone who's going to cook and provide food. We have the musician who's going to play with Preacher Boy. He's like a more established blues musician.
Yeah, and has a horrible
alcohol addiction.
But we get a little insight into why he drinks like he does, and we see some of there are a few different moments in this movie where time space is bent, and one of those moments is in fact involving this older character who is almost, it's a short piece, but he's almost like a mentor to Sammy because he's a blues musician. He's been around for a long time. He's been through a lot. He can speak to both the beauty and the pain of blues.
Yeah.
And it's interesting listening to him speak to Sammy. And then as he's talking about it, they're driving down the road and he has this flashback to a scene of his friends in this prisoner working crew
That
on
was
the side of the road.
Mm-hmm. I see. I didn't interpret it that way, which is kind of interesting, but that makes sense. Like,
and this I do, unlike a lot of these other things, this was definitely a flashback.
Okay.
And it was meant to, then he goes into telling the story that he had flashback to.
Which just shows kind of my ignorance of the time period as well. Like, right?
Well, but I mean, no, I don't think it does at all because it could have been that they drove by it, but he was seeing something they weren't seeing, almost like.
I just thought they weren't reacting as if it was something that was
normal.
Commonplace. Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately it was.
Yeah.
But he's explaining what was so horrible about this, and he's talking about his friend that was lynched.
Yeah.
And as he's talking about it and wrapping up the story, it blends like in this super painful, emotional way into him singing.
Yeah.
And apparently that whole scene was improv. It wasn't written that way.
Wow. Okay.
And as he was reciting his lines talking about that story, he just felt compelled to bring in the musicality of his character at that moment. And Sammy, because he's a younger actor, the actor that plays Sammy, Colton, was really not sure what to do. And if you watch in that moment, really, you can see that he kind of hesitates because he's not really sure because this isn't how it was written.
Interesting.
And then he picks up the guitar to play along with them as they're doing that. But it was not written that way at all.
Wow.
Isn't that so cool?
Well, I can't wait to watch this again and pick up on those nuances because, again, it was about 10:30 when the movie finally started because of 25 minutes of trailers.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I know. Oh.
And I appreciate it. I have been reading so many people complaining on Reddit. They're like, I showed up 20 minutes late expecting the trailers to be going and the movie had already started. People have gotten so used to showing up late that when it's shorter, they complain, which is kind of...
Okay, that's hilarious.
Yeah, they're asking for it. But,
also, I love trailers. I just don't want to see ads. I want to come at that sweet spot after the ads, before the
like,
trailers.
What is it? Screen vision? What is the stuff that plays ahead with the trivia and all
the
that?
Trivia is fine, but then they do ads.
Yeah, I don't need the Coke commercial. I don't even need Nicole anymore.
I cannot believe how long you held out with that one.
That's okay. Smoke's wife, Annie. There's a little on this. Again, I love this whole like beginning quarter or third of this movie because it's just rich with like character development, and it's it's all like super intentional and very lovely to get to know this cast.
Yeah.
It's an ensemble, and we're developing an ensemble for good reason.
Yep.
Smoke's wife, Annie.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, what exactly is she doing? It runs a community home where she gives out like medicinal.
She's basically voodoo.
Yeah.
Yeah, some degree of it, and they reference her being from Louisiana or bringing over, some of these beliefs that are from nearby areas. Mm-hmm. I have to say, she was maybe my favorite actor in the movie.
Pretty incredible.
She was so incredible. And so part of the storyline is that she and Smoke had lost a child.
Yeah. And they're struggling to find the closeness within that loss, Because
he's been gone, and she's obviously and understandably pissed that he just disappeared. Yeah. Clearly these guys, left and then came back from the war but didn't come back to their lives. And part of that isn't even discussed, but this experience of PTSD for soldiers and what they experienced. And
it didn't exist then. It was shell shock.
Right. And in some ways, they very well could have been driven by that to go to Chicago instead, where like, let's shoot people and be part of this.
It's like mercenaries, like when people come back from the like Iraq war and they're like, well, now I want to be a private contractor. I can't handle not being in this high pressure situation where,
Yep.
I'm surrounded by life or death choices because that's the only thing that I can process.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think also then we really gain perspective as the movie goes on for just how deeply he's suffering from the loss of his daughter.
Yeah.
So, but that's such a touching scene where, she's clearly pissed at him. She's really upset, and yet she's also really glad to see that he's safe and okay.
Yeah.
And there's this protection that she had put on him, and there's this very poignant discussion about, well, if all of this crazy shit of yours works so well, why didn't it protect our daughter?
Which is just a cruel but
Right.
probably honest question that he had.
And her answer was just like, I don't know, but it worked for you.
Yeah.
Which it's true. He made it through a lot. So beautiful, beautiful scene.
Well, and then if we look at Stack's partner, Mary, who he kind of up and left as well. Mary is, I don't know if it's explicitly said, is she mixed race?
She is, although I'm glad you bring this up because there is the point where I felt like the most visceral, and maybe it's because it was the only thing that felt like, okay, I can step into these shoes more easily.
Yeah.
Was when she first came
She hopped off the
to
train.
when she first came to
at
the club.
Yeah.
And they invite her in.
Yeah. Well, they knew
And-
her. I think she was familiar.
Well, at first, Cornbread is like, I don't think you're in the right place. And he doesn't recognize her. And then when she says who she is, he's like, oh my gosh, come on in. And there was this part of me that I was questioning in my head. I'm like, is she really supposed to be there? Like, is that okay for her to be experiencing
Not
this?
up to you, Kelly.
Right.
Right?
Right. But then when everybody recognizes her and she's welcomed in, and for me, as soon as the dialogue happens, where we find out she's, I think, a quarter black, I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's okay for her to be there.
Again.
And then I was like, oh, God, that's a really fucking weird way to think about it.
And it's
But those
nice
were
to
some of-
recognize those things though in the moment, right?
Well, and those were the moments that I was like, wow. And that's, I think, what fuels for me, what I really appreciate getting out of these kinds of experiences.
Yeah.
Is like, it's an opportunity to really hopefully experience something closer to empathy with a
Yeah.
lot of different perspectives.
Well, let's catch them up. Clearly, yeah, we've got this crew: Cornbread the bouncer, Sammy, and then
Delta Slim.
Delta Slim, of course. Pearline. Did we talk about her? That's the singer that's
Sammy.
Sammy has a crush on. That
Yep.
also they met at the train station where they picked up Slim. Is that right? I'm
Yep.
sorry,
And
I
she's apparently
keep- married,
married.
not happily or happily, but
but not committedly,
I
whatever
guess.
it may be. Yep.
Sammy's got his eye on her. But this night is slowly ramping up to be quite successful. People are showing up. They were enjoying the Chicago beer. There's a conversation about the currency that's being accepted, which is a nice little kind of interesting moment because there is money that was given out by slave
It was
owners.
plantation.
Right?
Yeah, it was
Not
plantation.
slave owners, plantation owners. Pardon
Yep.
me.
Yep.
And it is not.
Well, I mean, which were one and the same.
Yeah, basically. But currency that wouldn't be accepted at non-black establishments. So they were arguing we shouldn't be taking this. But
Right,
they said,
because
you know
then
what? These people worked for them.
Right. It was part like their mission statement of being there in the first place
Yeah.
is to make it accessible to the people that they're essentially wanting to serve. Yeah.
Whether or not the money has value outside of this doesn't matter.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and I don't know, that's the cool thing. I mean, Michael B. Jordan plays both Smoke and Stack, and he does a great job of kind of separating who they are as characters.
I agree.
One of them is way more money focused, and one is way more focused on I don't even know how would we say that they separate.
Well, I think
One is more cautious for sure.
and I think the one that's more cautious is the one that I think is really struggling with the loss of a child.
Yeah.
And it just has a very different perspective on the world. And I don't know, there's a lot, I've known a lot of twins in my day, and it seems so cliche, but I feel like, Byron.
Uh-huh. My sister had a baby, by the way.
Yeah, you still haven't given me the name.
Is it my place to say?
I mean, probably not on
Oh yeah, it's probably
on broadcast, but maybe to me after the
I'll
show.
tell you later,
Yeah. I really feel like it is a very common dynamic, especially with identical twins, to have one that is a little bit more reckless, one that is a little bit more reserved.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because like
Yeah.
you can't have two leader. Like, not saying that every sibling relationship has to have a leader, but there is usually like a more submissive personality and
Yeah.
someone who is a little bit more forward.
Yeah, I agree.
In it, I mean, it's clearly not that. It's not that simple. I mean, like, yeah.
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 But in this, I mean, I just wanted to highlight Michael B's performance. So, like,
Really, really good.
separating those characters out was really interesting. So,
Mm-hmm.
did a great job. The night's going well. God damn, Sammy's got such a good voice.
Oh my God. So good.
I guess, wait, I mean, fuck, I forgot about this. We should probably talk a little bit about Remick.
Yeah.
And I guess the Choctaws at the same time, right?
Yep. So
While the arranging of this is
it's before
taking
we've opened
place.
up for the evening.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a situation where it's very near dark, too. I wanted to say it. This film reminds me of Near Dark a little bit at moments as well. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
But I think it is Remick who shows up at the door of this like small kind of more rural farm and says he's being chased by natives who want to kill him.
Right. And it's very convincing.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like shit.
He's been beat up terribly. There's no reason to not believe
almost
him.
like he's burnt in the face from the sun.
Right. Well, and there's also this incredible and not ever spoken, but very clear, like, oh, well, it's this
natives,
white dude that's
yeah,
out there.
being
Like,
chased by Native Americans, so we
right,
need
like,
to
we
defend
need to
this white
help
guy.
him.
Well,
He's
and,
one of us.
Well, and they were KKK members as well.
Right.
But.
Which helped with the perspective, yeah.
So when the Choctaws show up and they were chasing down this person saying he's very dangerous and if he's in there, you need to let us know so we can take care of this because they clearly know. And I mean, there's this kind of something alluded that they have this kind of deeper knowledge of the lore of vampires, which was kind of cool as well.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't ever explicitly stated, but they certainly knew something that this KKK family did not know. But they warned him, said if he's in there, you should let us go in and get him. And then the sun goes down, and they decide to leave.
Yep.
They did their best.
They tried really hard.
And this family should have listened.
Because she goes back in,
And
her husband's on the floor.
get gnawed on, I think. Oh, no,
No,
because
he's
Remick's
already
in the
been gnawed
rocking
on.
chair. Yeah,
Yep.
which is kind of a wonderful sequence.
Yep.
Very Deacon Frost almost of Blade. He's
Yep.
got this kind of swagger. He's like,
Yep.
What did he say? Like,
Oh,
I can't-
he's just, what was it?
It's like
He's
you
just
should have
resting.
listened to him. Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, that's so fucking cool.
Yep.
And it throws back to like the era of vampire films that like lit me up, man. Like,
Yep.
I loved that moment. And this is a vampire film. I don't know if that was a spoiler. I think from the trailers, everyone got a good idea. Of,
Yeah.
like,
Well, and I think even the most brief discussion of it was, it is vampires.
Yeah.
It's, I think, a very interesting take on them, for sure. I love the
Yeah.
ways that they use the lore to really dig into some of the allegory to other themes in this movie. So this idea that they hold very firm to this idea that vampires must be invited in,
yeah,
right?
which is great. And they stick with the rules too. Like,
Well, and I think the implications of that, when we're looking at segregation, when we're
Sure.
looking at it's got all of these just like really brilliant ways that vampire lore is being used to
As an
represent so
analogy.
many other things.
Yeah.
And the things that they chose to hold to versus the ones that weren't really discussed. Like, we didn't see any coffins that they were hanging out
no,
in, right?
I don't know if there was silver.
Right, like those things, but the ones that really matter and that you can see really, symbolism tied to, they used just masterfully.
Let's get up to it. I mean, we've got Slim and Sammy. Slim introduces Sammy, and Sammy's performance is probably one of the best things I've seen on screen. Something that if you have the ability to see this in like a big D or an IMAX or
Surrounded
something,
by the noise.
holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't even talk about this. Visually, like, such a really cool, rich film. And the music itself, Sammy's voice, which we watched a little video. Apparently he went viral for doing Instagram singing videos, and that's kind of where he got his start.
Yeah, and Jay-Z sampled him for a
His
song,
name is
and then
Miles Catton, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Unbelievable voice. And the way that they kind of like build this energy around him performing, and of course, like there's this more visual element that tells its own quick story about music and culture. You know,
Yep.
It's a really beautiful sequence where it flashes almost through time as these people are almost in a fever dancing.
this is my favorite part because it's
This is
this
it.
idea
Interesting.
that the music is so powerful. And I think for me, it's that it is so of like the deepest feelings of Sammy as he's playing it, that it really does break, you know, rip through space-time. And so we're seeing past, present, and future
Yeah.
of the black musicians and the black folk in this place, but also we see Choctaw, past, present, and future. And then we see Chinese,
Yeah.
past, present, and future. And there are all of these representations of culture and music and art, and all three of them like blending and coexisting at the same time. And it's so interesting because it's not talked about, it's not referenced later in the film. It's not even this overwhelmingly big part of the movie. And it's a one shot.
This is where, yes, it is one shot. And this is where I'm going to get in trouble because I thought if it would a little bit longer, it would have been a little bit too distracting.
Which I could totally see. And I'm sure you aren't the only one who felt that way.
Yeah, I just think that he caught it and did it like everything was executed in that sequence perfectly.
Yeah.
I just recognized something building in me that's like, okay, if we're going to hang here for much longer, it
Right.
will suck me out of this moment.
Right.
And thank goodness he like just slipped it right back into the night itself.
Well, and again, I think, you know, kind of like some of these moments I've had throughout the movie, you know, it would be interesting to contemplate, like, why would that slip you out of it?
That's a great point.
You know,
have to think
like,
about that.
we're not seeing, I don't know, what would be our white equivalent, like friggin'
I
ballet?
don't know if
Like, I
that's
don't
it.
even know.
Like for me, it's about storytelling. Like,
Oh, totally.
and it was like this could be too distracting from what is being said.
Right. But if any of those three cultures were yours and it was speaking
would I
to
be
you,
paying more attention?
right?
Or would it be more
Like,
effective?
because there would
Yeah.
be things that
Affecting, I guess.
almost like, you know, connections, or even this
I
idea.
loved it when
Yeah.
Remix dancing. I'm just kidding.
Doing his river dance
did love that.
outside?
We'll talk about that
Yeah.
in a minute. But so I took it as the energy that was radiating from this night itself was what drew Remick and his two new friends
Yeah.
to this situation.
Right.
And they show up not unarmed.
Well,
They've
and that's why Rennick.
They've got music.
This is why Rennick has been in this neck of the woods at all, is because he's heard Sammy and he's been getting closer and closer.
Yeah.
And it, you know, the analogy that I had in my brain immediately was in Dr. Sleep, Rose the Hat.
I hate that movie.
I know you do. I'm so sorry,
It's
but
just
it
not
felt.
good.
I love it so much, and it really did remind me of. She could like smell the kid that had The Shining, and Remick could like smell this insane talent,
Yeah.
and like was just so drawn to it that he was on that pilgrimage, and on the way got a couple of new vampires to help him out.
And it's a good band. It's a three-piece.
They're a good band. They did a great job.
Was it like, I mean, banjo, guitar, and then what was the
She
girl
was like
doing?
playing a fiddle, but playing
Was
it like a
oh,
guitar.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, wonderful stuff. And they show up. They're like, hey, can we play too? Like, it sounds like you guys are having a great night. I'd love to participate as well. And then they bust out their own little ditty.
Yep.
It's kind of corny.
Yep.
It's, I mean, they're fine with it. They're like, these guys are pretty good. However, that's
Yep.
not what the night's about, right? Like,
No, and so, you know, they let them move on, and there's this really interesting point of, you can see Remick really trying to walk the balance to manipulate these folks into, no, really, like, we're good white guys.
Yeah.
Like, really, like, you know.
we're here. We love the music.
Right.
Like, we're just music fans.
Right. And
like,
even some of the phrases that he's using trying to convince them that he's not a bad white dude, right?
Yeah.
Like those were some more phrases that just hit really with me. Like, oh,
I can't remember the
interesting.
exact words, but I know exactly. And he's like, we're going to walk real slow in case you change your mind. And then
Right.
they're like kind of skipping slowly around the road.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
But it's really interesting because there's this balance of hunting that they're doing as well as walking away. Like you can
Yep.
tell that they're almost like a wolf pack on the edge of like a
Totally.
fence line or something.
Right, because they can't come in, but they're trying to figure out what their move is to try and get their prey.
There's
Yeah.
something behind the eyes, and it's really
Ooh,
kind of
so scary.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
really well acted by
Yep.
all of them.
Yep.
You know what is the who breaks the door? You know, who crosses the line? Who invites them in? Is that the next place we go?
Yeah, I
feel
think
like
so.
That's right.
I think so.
I don't remember. It's been
it's
2 weeks for me. So.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, I'm sorry. So we, at some point, the store owners from the town.
That's what it is.
The husband decides he's going to go outside and get the car so that they can leave.
Yeah,
and
it's
of
a wonderful
course
night.
he doesn't come back. And eventually they realize that he has been turned. Somebody gets pulled out, and we can see that cornbread has been turned, and he's feeding on somebody.
Yeah.
And finally, the mourning wife, after seeing her husband and knowing that he's gone, she's really pissed, and she wants to take over. She wants to kill them, and she just screams.
Wait, when did the smoker stack? When does that happen?
Oh, that's the inciting incident.
Yeah,
that's how we know
should-
that the
should-
vampires
we
have
should-
taken over.
We should bring that up, huh?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So basically,
Sorry, my timeline is a little.
no, you're good.
funky.
So after the musical trio starts to wander away, they say, well, Mary volunteers. I'm going to go out and see what the hell the deal is with them.
Yeah.
I'm going to see what's going on. And she goes out, talks to them, and comes back. And we can see that right before she comes back, you know, he has revealed himself to be a vampire. We know that she's done for.
Yeah.
And then she's standing outside the door, and she's waiting for cornbread to invite
That's
her
right.
back in.
Yeah.
And
Well, aren't you gonna invite me in?
right. And she was able to pull that off really smoothly.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, because they trust her.
Right.
Like-
She comes in, immediately goes to seduce her ex-boyfriend and drags him into a room, and they start having sex.
Stacking her. Yeah.
And we know exactly where this is going.
Yeah.
There's a fight that breaks out.
Oh, and it's a wonderful night up until that moment. Like everything is going
Oh,
well.
it's wonderful.
Sammy.
Sammy had a lovely experience with the singer. That
got
was
to do that whole ice cream cone licking thing.
Yep, he did. He was
Yeah.
very excited about it.
And that's awesome for him.
Yep, it was. It
Not
was
for
great.
her husband. That's kind of
No, but
And
least of their problems.
It's a hit. Everything was going well this
Yep.
night. It was a wonderful night.
And then there's a fight over some loaded dice.
There's a slashing. Yeah, that
Yep.
wasn't great.
And so Smoke says, yeah, go get my brother. And Sammy walks over and opens the door and is like, oh shit, he's busy. I can't get him right now.
Open the door.
And because he was having sex.
Yeah.
And so then Smoke is like, oh Jesus. And he goes in there. And by the time he opens the door,
Mary is going to town
Mary
on
is
his.
eating his neck.
Yeah.
And of course, she gets shot a bunch of times and then jumps up, still fully alive. And this is when
Runs
they
out the
know
door.
something is very amiss. And so Smoke's wife really starts trying to help him understand that his brother's gone
Mm-hmm.
and they need to get the body out because
I mean, we're pretty aware at this point. I think even they are like, this is vampires.
This is vampires.
Vampire movies always have that moment. They're like, I guess vampires are real. like,
well,
right?
she
Like-
said, because they had been talking about some of these different, creatures, and a haint had come up as one of the options.
Yeah.
And then she said this is even worse because, a vampire, that soul is just held captive and can't go and be with the ancestors.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Obviously, Smoke is very traumatized, doesn't want to get his brother out. And at this point, they hear cornbread at the door. And now he's wanting an invitation in, and they go and kind of start to face off against them. And we can see also Smoke's really struggling. He doesn't want to accept that cornbread is turned, and he's looking for a reason to believe that, why is he acting so weird? Why doesn't he just come in?
Just come in.
And Cornbread's
Well, they don't say
making
that,
the
of
most
course.
insane arguments, right? Like, in some ways, that dialogue made me pause because I'm like, okay, why are they believing anything that he's saying?
He's being weird.
He's being so weird, and it is so clear. And to me, it was a very interesting example of when there's somebody you love and you care about and you want something not to be true.
Yeah.
Holy cow, it can take a long time to get beat over the head with the truth before you're finally willing to accept it.
Well, it's the same feeling I got when I watched Remick and the trio basically walking away. It's like they're talking, but they're saying things with something unsaid behind it, you know?
Yeah.
And all of the vampires in this movie have that same kind of element where it's like it's the same as like The Faculty, the film that Coogler referenced.
Yep.
Like these body snatcher, they're not them.
Yep.
But they're talking and doing their best to be these people that they used to be, you know?
Yeah.
They have the information and they're just talking. It's like when we just had that conversation with AI. Like,
I did not like that. It was really terrifying.
And we'll be doing that on Behind the Screen soon. And that's why I think that this is such like a unique perspective of like a vampire film. Like the way that they are, stop reading the comments, the way that they're able to, be multi-layered monsters, you know?
Well, and I mean, there's this sadness, and they're trying to get their loved ones to join them, right? And
kind of. I mean, like, but and they're in that bliss state where they're like, it's way better over here. Like,
right. Or maybe they aren't. Maybe it's awful and it's miserable, and it's like being an alcoholic, and they just want, misery loves company. Who knows? But it's still very visceral feelings,
there's
and
a
it
separation.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And this kind of keeps happening in like almost a slasher way for a while.
People keep getting picked off. And then the mourning wife.
Well, I mean, we got to talk about the dance real quick. The river dance. Like there's this moment that almost matches the energy or tries to outside. I don't know what the real point of it. It's to tell a story, I guess, right?
Well, and I think it's to show that... I don't know what the point was.
It's like we have
my
culture
interpretation.
Too, almost like.
Yeah, and my interpretation was these seem like the bad guys, but actually maybe these aren't even the bad guys. Like, look at they've got these human characteristics too, and we look at Remick, and he's definitely an other. He's a part of the white majority. He is clearly the one that incited all of this, that is causing untold pain and chaos.
Yeah.
But also he's got a culture that has been oppressed, and the history of Irish folk in our country is certainly not a welcoming one.
Yeah.
You think about the ways that they were treated.
I'm the victim in this, guys.
Yeah, it's actually about this movie is actually about how Byron and the McKoys in general have been victimized in America.
And it's more Scottish than Irish, so.
Oh, okay. Well, but
of course I'm joking.
I know you are. Everybody knows you're joking. But I do. It's interesting because it is meant definitely as like, oh, let's appreciate his culture for a second too.
I don't even know if it's about that. I think it's just saying like he is also was a person. It's literally a vampire, and whatever that analogy is of him, sucking the life out of this culture that he's trying to get into. But like, I think it's just more. It's weird to say humanizing when you're talking about a vampire, but it's just showing that like.
Oh yeah,
this is not just a monster flatly,
right? Well, and I think it's not. He's got something to share with the world that he also hasn't been able to share. So I do think it is a humanizing
he's driven
component
by evil, though. Like, almost arguably the devil, like. Right? I mean,
yes, but also. There's certainly the component of he didn't choose to be turned.
Yeah.
Now
what does that say if we keep going deeper?
I don't know.
Generational racism?
Well, I think if we keep going deeper, it's just that there's no such thing as free will.
Okay, I guess that's fair, but
It all comes down to no free will.
Speaking of going deeper, I don't know if we need to go much deeper than that.
I really would like to leave the end, especially. Oh, and if you go, stay for the post credits.
Please do. I left.
There's a mid credit and a post credit, so stay for the whole
shoulda known
thing.
a guy doing Marvel movies was going to do much more.
But they're much more important than a Marvel mid credit or end credit. So stick around.
Yeah, like, dang. I have no prepared final thoughts, if I'm honest here. Do you want to do highs and lows as above, so below?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Okay, how about you go first?
Okay. My high was the multi-culture, one-shot musical dance scene. I feel like I could watch that on replay 10 or 12 times and still pick up beautiful elements of it each time. I can't imagine the different dancers and actors in that scene and how hard that had to be to choreograph and coordinate. Like, it's mind-boggling to think about the effort that went into something like that. So that's my high. My low, this is really challenging.
Do you want me to jump in with my low?
Yeah, jump in with your low for a second.
My low was, it seemed like when shit finally does hit the fan, because, I'm such a huge fan of siege movies, and specifically From Dusk Till Dawn, if we're talking about the vampire genre. The fight sequences that happened, while I feel like the loss was real in this, more real than From Dusk Till Dawn, it went really fast, and it was kind of confusing and disorienting, and in a sense not really climactic enough, which was interesting from a guy who works within the Marvel universe, which is known for its 30-minute fight sequences, like the kind of drawn out multi-leveled fight sequences. That's not really what you get here, and I found it kind of, again, not terribly climactic in the same way that the other elements of the film were paced better, right?
Yeah.
So that's my low.
Okay.
Not helpful to you, probably.
No. I think it's good. I mean, it's funny because the only lows that I can come up with are, I would have loved more of this and more of this.
Well, that's fair.
I would like more knowledge of Sammy's family. I would like more knowledge of...
We never see Sammy's mom, do we?
No, and she might not.
Maybe she was in the church at the beginning / end of the movie. She's the one that called his name, said, "Oh, Sammy," and
she might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like more background on the vampires. I would like more of the relationship. So
You want an HBO series?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do.
Fair. Should I do my high then?
Yes. What's your high?
It's got to be. Oh, I mean, it's the same scene that you're talking about, kind of like the build into his like stomp clap, like music performance, but it stops sooner than yours is, I guess.
Okay.
I guess same thing, different reasons, which is
that
kind of
makes
interesting.
sense.
It gave me goosebumps. Like Sammy's performance was amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
Final thoughts. From Dusk Till Dawn's better, I guess. Just kidding. Completely different thing. This movie is, gosh darn it, man. So well paced for as long as it is, and for being what it is, it respects the genre and almost like the borderline 90s grindhouse Rodriguez style filmmaking, while still telling like a richer, deeper story. And it's just so clearly like more nuanced of an approach to the subject matter, and it's just like the way it tells the story is so again rich, like in it's subtle moments that really make this thing like next level, like an amazing film. This is why I should write these all out before. But another thing, visually, one interview I read was how they lit the black actors, and how that's something that isn't considered in a lot of filmmaking, and that is just such a standout thing about this. It's like one of the more beautiful horror films I've seen in multiple years. Like, I like Longlegs for the different reasons, you know, the cinematography of Oz Perkins, but like this is like so beautiful, and gosh, it's really a great film.
Yeah.
For all those reasons, I guess I give this film, Sinners, 9.3 bottles of Chicago beer.
I wonder what's in that Chicago beer.
Not sure.
Man, green water from the river. This movie is one that I know I'm going to get more out of every time I watch. I'm very excited to watch it again. In fact, Sam and I may go see it this weekend again. Lots of layers and lots of interpretations, and it's almost insatiable, the amount that I want to learn and continue looking up about the movie. This is the one that I will definitely lay in bed breaking all of my mental health boundaries with my cell phone.
Why don't you get your
passing
daughters?
out
Let's
as
get
I
your daughters
drop.
involved in this.
Oh, I will tomorrow.
All right.
But I'll be falling asleep and dropping my cell phone as I'm looking things up about it tonight as I fall asleep for sure. But I think one of my favorite things that was pointed out, and I'm excited to see where this goes in the future too. It looks like he is signed on for Coogler's next movie. Will, my friend I was talking to, brought up that he really likes the way that Coogler and Michael B. Jordan have developed this actor-director relationship with all of these movies. And he pointed out you don't see that with black actors nearly as much, right? Like what comes to mind is
you don't see
like
enough
Scorsese,
black directors though too.
Oh, totally.
And Leonardo.
Right? Those are the types of things. Or Francis Ford Coppola and De Niro, and those are the things that are very common. But for this to be nurtured, I loved the fact. I read this thing in the Wikipedia write-up on the movie. Apparently, when Coogler was selling the distribution rights, what he wanted, in addition to money, obviously,
Clearly,
was final cut privilege.
wow. All
Which he ended up getting, and I think
it could have been shorter.
that in and of
I'm just kidding.
I think that in and of itself, and the control he's been able to maintain, while I'm sure there are still a ton of crazy things and hoops he has to jump through in the world of Hollywood, I love being able to see something as close as possible to the piece that he intended. I cannot wait to see what he comes out with next.
Steph
And I'm
Curry
going to go
film?
back and reread or rewatch the things that I have missed of his. So for all of those reasons and a bunch more, all of you, I really hope you get the chance to see this movie. And I give Sinners...
Just match me.
No, no. 9.5 loaded dice.
Wow. And those are our thoughts on Sinners, which a lot of people have already seen, Kelly.
I know.
Movie's doing really well.
My normie sister saw this before
Well, I
me.
mean, that's interesting.
She hates horror movies.
That is kind of interesting.
And she loved this.
Yeah, as of now, it's grossed worldwide $244 million. It's the 5th highest grossing film of 2025, and that is a horror film, Kelly.
Yes.
Very exciting.
How cool would it be if this actually won, like, awards?
See, and I mean, that's kind of the tough thing. It's like, I could see it, but at the same time, like, it is such a genre film that it might not,
There's bigger implications.
totally. And there's subtext in it that makes it like way more rich of a story. But
Did Get Out get nominated for something?
yeah, but Get Out is, I think, more. It's a psychological horror film, clearly directly.
It's not
about,
vampire.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. It's just. I mean, if I was to redo my final thoughts again, like the balance of this is just incredible, to take such heavy subject matter and, handle it seriously, but at the same time respecting like established genre tropes in a way, a genre that's it doesn't always need to be taken literally and seriously. Like, vampire movies they're supposed to tell a story and be an analogy for something, but at the same time, they're supposed to be monsters that rip necks out with their teeth, and that's kind of what we still got here. It's a perfect balance, and I really enjoy it. I don't know what he's doing next. I was looking for it, but
he's got a bunch of projects coming up.
That's
actually
exciting. A lot of Marvel TV looks like he's producing as well.
Well, he's doing his own things too. There's some really good ones.
Well, I can't wait to see it, Kelly. And again, people go check this out. And once you have, let us know what you think at Frightday on Twitter and Instagram, Blue Sky. Contact@frightday.com is our email address. That's the same place Alan Town should be writing us anytime
Please, Alan.
Would love to hear from you, buddy. But what an adventure, Kelly. You see this here?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. This is a new thing. If you're
could be more blurry.
I think it could be a little bit more blurry.
I feel like that's actually pretty easy to read.
I actually don't think it is. I think that you're mistaken. YouTube.com/Frightday is where you can watch the video versions of these podcasts. Live.frightday.com is where you can tune in live each week. Follow, subscribe there to be notified when we do go live. Woo! Next week, I think it's the return to Allentown.
We are returning to Allentown.
We've got more to talk about, which is very exciting. Yeah, this has been a hoot. We made it through, Kelly.
Yeah, we did. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks to all the people on the screen here. This is
look at our folks. Love those folks. Great folks listed there.
Stuff. If you want to join the Frightday Society, go to FrightdaySociety.org. But yeah, until next Frightday, I'm Byron.
I'm Kelly.
Stay alive.
For sure.
And stay scared.
You've been listening to an Audio Wool original, produced by Byron McKoy. Theme music is provided by Yawns. For more programs like this, visit audiowool.co.